Today, we are diving deep into a really unsettling topic: group gaslighting. We're going to break down how a story told by a group can become so powerful that it literally overwrites what you see with your own two eyes.
Okay, let's just jump right into the deep end with this, because this idea is the key to everything. The most striking truth about group gaslighting is that your sanity is not a private possession. It is a social consensus that can be voted away by the people you trust. I mean, think about that. We assume truth is what we see, right? What we experience. But in certain high-pressure situations, your own biological need to belong gets weaponized, turning your entire circle of friends or family into a kind of reality jury that can find you guilty of misremembering your own life.
So that brings up the big question: why does having 5 people tell you you're crazy feel more convincing than your own physical evidence? Well, this is the core paradox of what we can call networked contradiction. It's that exact moment when your brain's survival instinct for social agreement gets turned against you, leading to your own psychological erasure. Let's break down exactly how that works.
All right, to really get a grip on this, we're going to follow a clear roadmap. We'll start with this idea of the reality jury. Then we'll look at the social disconnect that sets the stage. After that, we'll map out the 3-step architecture of erasure, understand the psychological battle going on, and then, importantly, talk about how to find your own compass. We'll wrap it all up with the single most important takeaway: concordance is not truth.
So, first up, the reality jury. Just imagine your own perception, your memories, being put on trial, and the people closest to you, they're the jury and the prosecution. It's a wild concept. Now, what's really fascinating and kind of sneaky about this is that it often isn't about people being intentionally evil. It's all about observable patterns of interaction. It's how our brains can get tricked by these predictable social nudges into thinking that coordinated group pressure, basically a social pylon, is actually a sign of our own mental decline. You start to think the problem is your memory, not the social environment around you. So how in the world does this kind of environment even get started? Well, that brings us to our second stop: the social disconnect. This is all about the psychological fog that lets group gaslighting really take root, and it all starts with a key idea from behavioral science.
It's a phenomenon called pluralistic ignorance, and honestly, it is a bizarre thing to think about. It's basically the emperor has no clothes effect, but on a huge scale. You know, think about a work team where everyone knows a project is a total disaster, but nobody says a word because they all assume they're the only one who sees it. Or that family where everyone privately disagrees with the official story about something that happened years ago, but they all go along with it to keep the peace. Everyone is secretly rejecting the norm, but publicly they're all on board, creating this powerful and totally fake illusion of agreement. Now, inside this fog of pluralistic ignorance, the person being targeted starts to experience something called a validation lockdown. When you're facing what looks like a rock-solid unanimous consensus, your brain just goes, well, it must be me. That group unanimity feels like absolute proof that you're the one who's wrong, and here's the kicker. You stop questioning the group and you start questioning yourself. You don't ask for outside opinions because you're already convinced that you're the source of the problem.
And this leads to something even deeper, even more unsettling: ontological isolation. Now, this isn't just feeling lonely. This is a profound, dizzying feeling of being disconnected from reality itself. It's that feeling you get when you point to something you can clearly see and every single person you trust tells you it's not there. After a while, you don't just feel misunderstood. You start to feel like you're losing your grip on the physical world.
So why on earth would our brains do this to us? Well, it all comes down to a survival instinct. There's a part of our brain that processes social pain, and get this, it treats the fear of being cast out just like a physical injury. The threat of being kicked out of the group is so terrifying that to stop that pain, your brain will literally auto-correct your memory. It will sacrifice what it knows it saw just to get back to the safety and warmth of the social circle.
Okay, so what feels like random, confusing chaos is actually, more often than not, a systematic and predictable pattern. So let's pull back the curtain and look at the actual architecture of how an individual's reality gets systematically taken apart and replaced.
The whole process tends to unfold in 3 distinct steps. It goes from setting up a new story, to denying your version of reality, and then finally, to recalibrating your reality to match theirs. Let's break down exactly what's happening at each stage.
All right, this table really lays it all out. Let's walk through it. Step 1, the primary narrative. This is the poisoning the well phase. A story is created about you, usually behind your back, and it's often framed as concern. The real goal here is to test your isolation threshold, to see how disconnected you are. You might start feeling confused, or like people are pitying you, but you don't know why. Then comes step 2, the multilateral denial. This is when things get active. Suddenly the whole group is in sync. It's not just one person saying you're wrong, it's everyone, often using the exact same phrases or giving each other these knowing looks. This is all designed to set off your internal isolation alarm. That's when the vertigo and intense self-doubt kick in. Which brings us to step 3, the reality recalibration. Right when that social pain is at its absolute worst, the group offers you a way out, a way back into the fold. All you have to do is agree with their version of events. And when you do, just to make the pain stop, you actually feel relief. And that compliance is then held up as proof that you've finally seen the light.
The end result of this whole cycle is a state called epistemic alienation. And this is so much more than just losing an argument. This is about losing the right to your own memory. Your brain becomes conditioned to see your own unique perspective, your individuality as a threat. And consensus, on the other hand, starts to feel like sanity. You actually stop trusting your own thoughts until they've been given what some call narrative clearance from the group.
So the big question is, why? Why does this happen? What are the deep psychological drivers for both the group and the individual? Let's get into the motivations behind this battle for reality.
This slide really just cuts right to the heart of the conflict. For the group, the motivation is often to achieve a total narrative monopoly. Think about it. If a group's leaders can define what's real for everyone in it, they gain absolute power. There's no outside truth to judge them by. Their story is the only story that matters. And on the other side, you have the individual's vulnerability, our deep, deep human need for communal validity. We are wired to belong. And in these dynamics, a person can be conditioned to believe that being a good friend or a loyal family member is way more important than being a correct observer. You start to prioritize the relationship over reality.
And this whole dynamic is basically supercharged by a biological principle known as informational social influence. It's a simple but incredibly powerful fact. As social animals, we find it almost biologically impossible to hold on to a truth when our entire tribe tells us we're wrong. We are wired to trust the consensus for our own survival. This isn't a character flaw. It's a feature of our social brains that unfortunately can be exploited. So, given how powerful all of this is, how do you even start to find your bearings again? Well, that brings us to our next section, finding your compass. And just to be clear, this isn't about starting a fight. It's about recognition and awareness for yourself.
So there are 2 really clear, practical tools we can use here to get some clarity. First is the external witness audit. This is a mental exercise. Just ask yourself, does the truth seem to change depending on who's in the room? Do the stories and facts shift based on the audience? The goal here is just to learn how to tell the difference between genuine unity and coordinated coercion. The second tool is independent data awareness. This means you intentionally seek out cold witnesses. These are people outside the group who have zero emotional or social stake in the outcome. They can give you an objective reflection that helps you reset your internal compass and confirm that you're not, in fact, just making things up.
And the crucial point here is that the goal of these steps isn't to win an argument or prove someone wrong. It is simply recognition. It's about having the ability to step back and say, okay, this intense confusion and self-doubt I'm feeling, it's not a sign that I'm broken, it's a predictable biological response to a very specific kind of social engineering. Just being able to name it can be enough to interrupt that neurochemical cycle of alienation and help you get your feet back on the ground.
This brings us to our final and, honestly, the most important section. If you take away just one thing from this whole explainer, please let it be this core principle.
Concordance is not the same as truth. Just because everyone agrees on something doesn't make it a fact. Consensus is a social tool. It's incredibly useful for building cohesion and helping us cooperate, but it is not a measuring stick for objective reality. A group can unanimously agree that the sky is green, but that doesn't actually change the color of the sky.
And this all leads to a really powerful idea: social sovereignty. Your mind is your own private territory. The destructive cycle we've been talking about only gets broken the moment an individual realizes they do not need to be confirmed by others to be real. Awareness is the key that prevents a social circle from turning into a psychological cage.
And that really brings us to the final thought, the most important takeaway of all. The path back to yourself is a simple but pretty profound act of rebellion against a manufactured consensus. Trust your own perception. Trust your eyes, even if you're the only one looking.